You mentioned the dark web, and when people hear the dark web, they get kind of excited. Like it's this dark, mysterious,
Ooh,
secret place. Ooh, right? And people talk about like the creepypasta stories, basically, and like the red room and all of that. Can you tell me a little bit about the dark web? And like there, I know there's different levels, right? There's the dark web and the clear web and the deep. What are those levels?
all the webs. Um,
All the webs.
so the internet is not just like one place. And increasingly, it's becoming even more dynamic. But in general, we can simplify it into three main categories. There's more, but we'll just stick with just three main categories. So there's like the World Wide Web. This is the, website Google stuff. So www dot whatever dot com. This is that stuff that you see. So basically anything that you're looking at on a normal web browser. Then there's the deep web. So a lot of people confuse the dark web with the deep web, or they use it interchangeably, and it is not interchangeable. They're two totally different things. The deep web is where like business records and things that are accessible through the internet, but aren't necessarily something that you can Google. Think like the library, all the books on the shelf. You can't really see what's in all the books on the shelf, but they're there, they're available. Um, so it's not secret. It's not like that. It might be behind like a security barrier if it's like your medical records or whatever. But that's on the deep
Okay.
web. So that's a huge, huge chunk of
It's
the
like
internet.
boring
That's
stuff, the boring files.
Yeah, it's just where all the stuff is, right? So the World Wide Web is more like the interface by which you access all this other stuff. So then you have the dark web. The dark web is not something that you get to by accident. You have to know how to get there. You have to download software that does not come on your computer. There's no way you can accidentally access the dark web. There's just multiple steps that you have to take. Most people are having to do fairly significant amount of research to figure out, okay, what do I need to do this? How do I need to configure it? And then how do you get wherever you're going on the dark web? The dark web originally didn't really have a very good search function at all. Like you pretty much had to know exactly where you wanted to go. It's a little bit better now for that. It's a little more user friendly. However, it's still very much, like the Wild West. So most people are not surfing the dark web. They are going to specific places that they already know about. So they'll go to a forum or someplace, they'll find a link that is a dark web link that will only work on special browsers that are designed to run on the dark web. And so they already know, hey, this is the place I want to go, and they just pop that into their browser once it's configured, and then they can go look at it. They're not generally just like cruising around looking for stuff because things on the dark web don't live long. They're up and they're down. A lot of these things don't hang out a long time because most of it's nefarious and either they're doing it to hide or it gets taken down or whatever. Most things aren't sitting there for a long time.
So you mentioned that you can't like just stumble on it. And I know that offenders do not lack any amount of excuses. They are ready with to say the most absurd excuses. Have you heard that before? Have they said to you like, "Oh, I just ended up there. I don't know how I got on the dark web. I just was clicking and there I was."
I've had a few people in the past tell me that. I think it's common knowledge enough now that they know that they can't, lie about that. And like that's just a ridiculous statement. So, and everybody knows it. Um, I really haven't had anybody tell me that it was an accident lately. What I have had people say is when they're doing peer to peer and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I thought I was downloading a movie or something."
Hmm.
There is a lot of configuration that occurs with peer to peer. That is also software that does not come standard on any computer. You have to research what kind of peer to peer network that you intend to use, find the right software for it, configure it the right way so that you can actually effectively do the peer to peer file sharing and stuff like that. And then you have to like find people that have what you want and all that. And yeah, I mean, if you're technically proficient, like you'll figure it out. But this isn't something that you just like sit down and just know how to do. You have to go and do some research about it and decipher how this stuff works, find out, where are people going, where are they finding, the goodies. And so you don't just accidentally, oh, I thought I was downloading, whatever the new Avengers movie is, and it was 2 terabytes of child porn. Well, what happened? No, that
Right.
doesn't happen.
Yeah. That makes that makes sense. So you've spent some amount of time then on the dark web trying to find out what people are doing and in your investigations?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely familiarized myself with what's there and how it works. The other side of that too is I have to know how this stuff works because I have to be able to testify that it's complicated to get there. So, no, this isn't something that's on your computer normally, and this isn't something that you would download for any other reason. Like it doesn't work for other stuff because that's what it's for. So yeah, I go through every now and then. I'll actually go through and I'll reset up a network, either configure a dark web browser, or set up some of the peer-to-peer software and just record the number of steps, keystrokes, and settings and everything that you have to do to make that happen. So it's not like, oh, install, hit go. No, there's like all this stuff you have to do. So, there might be 27 different steps that you actually take to actually get to the point where it works. And so every now and then I'll do that and I'll actually record that process.
Is there a lot of really terrible material on the dark web? Like I said before, you there's a lot of rumors and people will say that they've gone to the dark web and they've seen this and this and this, and I don't know how true some of that is, but one of the things that people talk about is snuff films and, films where people are their lives are ended on camera, and I've done a bit of research into that over the years, and I've read a lot about it being a hoax, and the reason that it's gotten so disturbingly personal to me is that from the investigation in my own case, they discovered that there was talk about him ending my life in a stuff film. So when I did research on it later on and read all of this bit about Charlie Sheen finding some video and that was a hoax, and then this was a hoax and that was a hoax, and like if you look it up, overall it says it was a hoax. Kind of curious. Is that ring true to you, or are there truly videos like that?
So let me back up a little bit. So yeah, as far as like what is on the dark web, pretty much the main reason that people use the dark web is so that they can look at unusual things, right? So all the illegal stuff, things that won't live on the regular internet, or things that are so graphic that they're very, very hard to find on the regular internet. Um, or they want to use the anonymity of it and they don't want anybody to know that they're looking at terrible stuff. So the type of things that are on the dark web, or there's been the Silk Road and it's 50 iterations after it keeps getting
Right.
taken down and reinvented. The drug market, murder for hire, pretty much all the illegal activity, lots of prostitution, human trafficking, literally all the way to like buying a child, stuff like that. I mean, they're really twisted stuff. Snuff films, extreme, extreme hurtcore where somebody's actually tortured, not just, we're not talking like 50 Shades of Grey, getting some spanks or something like that. I'm talking like losing parts of your body or, extremely beaten, things that are not consensual. That kind of stuff lives on the dark web. As far as snuff films, they definitely do exist. I've seen snuff films, real ones. There's also a lot of simulated because most people don't want to die and they do want to make content. Um, there's one guy that I'm thinking of that he actually does a lot of like suicide films. How does he do a lot of them? Because he's not actually committing suicide, but it really looks like it. And so, there are people that have filmed their suicides, and you'll find that on the dark web and all the cartel stuff. And, any kind of like terrible thing is going to be there. But there are lots of, I guess you could call those, hoaxes in that they're simulated and they're not actually real, but they might be intentionally made to look like that, not to be a hoax, but to be to satisfy that itch for somebody.
Right, it's that fantasy played out enough that it looks real enough.